A billionaire stopped for a crying maid in the snow, unaware she'd lost everything but hope. What he didn't know was that offering her warmth would melt the ice around his own heart. This is the story of a single choice on a frozen New York night, one that would unravel secrets, awaken buried grief, and change 3 lives forever. Before we dive in, tell us, where in the world are you reading from? We love knowing how far a single spark of kindness can travel. The snow slammed sideways across the windshield like shards of glass. William Carter gripped the wheel of his black SUV, the high beams cutting through the storm as he drove along the desolate highway on Manhattan's outskirts. 11:47 p.m. The world was white, cold, and utterly silent, much like his life since his wife died 2 years ago. William had just left a black-tie gala, handshakes, brandy, and boardroom whispers still echoing in his head. But none of it mattered now. Not when grief rode shotgun and silence filled the passenger seat. His penthouse waited, sleek and sterile. His daughter Emily would be asleep, and he would pour another drink, stare out at the skyline, and pretend the loneliness didn't claw at his chest. Then, something caught in the headlights. A shape. No, 2. No, 3. A woman, her maid's uniform soaked and clinging to her like frost. In her arms, 2 tiny infants, both crying softly into the night. No coat, no umbrella. Just a mother shielding her children from a storm the city didn't care about. William's foot hovered over the brake. Logic screamed to keep driving. His life was complicated enough, but her eyes, tired, red-rimmed, burning with defiant love, met him for a second through the blur of snow. He stopped. He lowered the window. Cold air slapped his face. "Miss, are you all right?" The woman hesitated, her voice barely a whisper through the wind. "I don't want money. I just need warmth. For them." 20 minutes later, the SUV rolled into the underground garage of a penthouse high above the city. The woman, whose name he'd learned was Anna Robinson, sat silently in the passenger seat, still holding the babies as if setting them down might make this moment vanish. His butler's eyebrows raised as he opened the door. "She's a maid." William shook his head. "She's a mother." As the elevator rose, William glanced at her in the reflection, dripping, exhausted but unbroken. He saw something in her he hadn't seen in himself for years. Fight. He didn't know her story yet, but he would. And by the time he did, nothing, his company, his guilt, his grief, would ever look the same again. Because that night, William Carter didn't just offer shelter to a stranger. He opened the door to a truth he'd spent years avoiding. The elevator doors whispered open into a world of glass and silence. William stepped out first, coat dusted with snow, then turned back to guide Anna forward. She hesitated, her arms tightening protectively around her babies. The penthouse stretched before her, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the frozen skyline, marble floors that gleamed under soft recessed lighting, and a quiet so deep it hummed in her ears. She stepped inside slowly, her soaked shoes leaving prints on the polished floor. The babies whimpered, instinctively shrinking into her chest as if sensing they didn't belong. William's butler appeared from around the corner, his footsteps brisk and precise. He was older, impeccably dressed, and clearly unprepared for what he saw. "Sir," he said carefully, eyes flicking to Anna's uniform, then to the children. "She's a maid?" William didn't flinch. "She's a mother," he replied, voice low but firm. "Please prepare the guest room." The butler blinked, hesitated, then gave a curt nod. "Of course." Anna stood frozen by the entrance, uncertain where to go, how to move in a place like this. The warmth inside fogged her breath less now, but her fingers ached, numb from gripping her children too tightly. William stepped aside, giving her space, and gestured gently toward the hallway. "This way," he said. "You can settle in first. We'll talk later." The guest room was down a quiet corridor away from the main living area. William opened the door, revealing a space far too beautiful to be called a guest room. Muted gray walls, a tufted cream headboard, a chaise by the window, and a fireplace already flickering to life. Anna stepped in like she was trespassing. The twins stirred, crying softly as the warmth touched their cheeks. William placed a thick folded blanket on the edge of the bed and turned to leave. Before he did, he set down 2 steaming mugs, hot cocoa, and a small bottle of infant fever medicine on the nightstand. No words. Just that, Anna looked up, lips parting as if to thank him, but nothing came out. William nodded once and closed the door behind him. She stood there for a long moment before finally laying the twins gently on the bed. Their faces were pink from the cold, but their eyes were starting to close. She wrapped them in thick blankets, whispering soft promises that they were safe now, just for tonight. Then she began to hum, a low lullaby, warm and steady, drifting through the crack in the guest room door. Her voice was tired but tender, familiar. William heard it as he passed by, and something in his chest tightened. He paused, listening. That song, he hadn't heard it in 2 years. Not since Clara, his wife, sang it to their daughter in the hospital bed, clinging to her last breaths. His jaw clenched as memory swept in like a tide. Clara's pale hand in his. Her voice soft but unwavering. Promise me, Will. Don't shut the world out. Not forever. He had promised, then broke it the moment her eyes closed. He walked past the door quickly now, needing distance. His steps echoed down the hall as he made his way to the kitchen, where a decanter of scotch waited. But he didn't pour a drink. Instead, he leaned against the counter, palms flat, staring at nothing. He couldn't understand it. Why the sight of that woman in the snow had cracked something inside him. Why her voice, humming that lullaby, made the ache he'd buried so carefully rise again. He told himself this was temporary. One night of kindness. Nothing more. Upstairs, a soft noise drew his attention. He climbed the staircase slowly and peeked into his daughter's room. Emily was curled beneath her covers, arms wrapped around a stuffed bear, her cheeks flushed with sleep. A snow globe rested on her nightstand, the kind Clara had loved. He brushed a hand through Emily's hair and kissed her forehead, then backed out quietly. Downstairs, the penthouse had changed. It wasn't louder. It wasn't warmer, but it wasn't empty. In the guest room, Anna curled on the edge of the bed beside her sleeping twins. She didn't undress or lie down, just kept watch. Her back straight, her eyes half closed but alert. Her body may have been safe now, but her spirit hadn't quite caught up. Still, she was here, inside, alive, and for the first time in a very long time, so was something else in that house. Outside, snow drifted past the windows like falling stars, blanketing the city in silence. And somewhere within the glass walls of William Carter's world, the first fragile peace settled in. Quiet, unsure, but real, a beginning. Morning broke slowly and golden across the glass walls of William Carter's penthouse, casting long beams of light over marble floors and untouched furniture. In the guest room, Anna stirred beneath the weight of her exhaustion. The warmth felt surreal, almost suspicious. Her eyes opened to the sound of soft breathing. Her babies nestled close, still wrapped in thick blankets. No cold, no noise, no danger. For a moment, she simply lay there listening. Then came something else, an unfamiliar scent. Coffee, strong, rich, real. She sat up slowly, still dressed from the night before, hair unkempt, muscles aching. Her shoes were beside the bed, cleaned and drying on a towel. A fresh robe hung on the doorknob. She blinked at it, lips parting slightly, and swallowed hard. This wasn't charity. It couldn't be. She didn't know what it was yet. The twins stirred, soft grunts of hunger breaking the silence. She fed them carefully, murmuring reassurances as their tiny hands clung to her. Once they were settled, she padded quietly into the hallway, following the scent of coffee. William stood in the kitchen, still in a white dress shirt with sleeves rolled up, hair slightly tousled like he'd been running a hand through it. A second mug sat steaming on the counter across from him. "I wasn't sure how you'd take it," he said, not looking up from the news feed scrolling across his tablet. "So I guessed, no sugar." "No cream." Anna hesitated at the threshold, soaking wet socks clutched in one hand, the robe now wrapped around her frame. Her voice was raspy from sleep. "That's exactly how I take it." William finally looked up. For the first time, she saw something human behind his eyes. Not pity. Not distance, just a quiet awareness. He nodded to the stool across from him. "Sit. There's food." She lowered herself carefully onto the stool, as if afraid it might disappear. A plate of toast and eggs sat untouched before her, too perfect to trust. She stared at it for a long beat before picking up a fork. William sipped his coffee in silence. Eventually she spoke. "This is the first real meal I've had in a while." He glanced at her but didn't press. "My name's Anna," she continued. "Anna Robinson. I remember," he said softly. Her eyes flicked toward the twins' cries down the hallway. "They're Ava and Lily." Pretty names. She took a bite, then another, eating with a quiet restraint that made his chest tighten. She hadn't allowed herself to be hungry until now. "I studied architecture," she said finally. "I'm you Dean's List. I was going to design green space housing, especially in low-income areas." "That was the dream," William nodded. "What happened?" Anna looked away, fingers tightening around the coffee mug. "Life happened. I lost my husband. 2 years ago. Construction accident. Site collapse." He stilled. "I was home with the girls," she continued. "Newborns. Got the call around midnight. They said it was quick." "That didn't help." William's voice was low. "I'm sorry." She nodded but said nothing. "I didn't expect to end up in a maid's uniform," she said after a moment. "But grief has a way of rearranging everything you thought was yours." William didn't speak, but she noticed the way his jaw tensed, the flicker in his eyes when she said, "construction accident." She took another sip of coffee. "What company was he working for?" he asked lightly, almost too lightly. "Some subcontractors." "I don't even remember the full name now." She paused. "Something affiliated with Carter Enterprises, I think." William's hand froze over the tablet screen. She caught the shift, however slight, but didn't react. The moment passed. She stood. "I should clean up after myself," she said gently. "You've already done too much." "That's not necessary," he replied. "I insist." She disappeared down the hallway, her steps light, as if afraid to leave footprints. The day passed quietly. Anna kept mostly to the guest room, tending to the twins with practiced grace, feeding, changing, soothing. William watched from the office nook tucked off the main living area. His laptop sat open, emails blinking, reports waiting, but his eyes kept drifting. She moved like someone used to holding everything together with one hand. No complaints. No noise. Just quiet strength. By late afternoon, Anna appeared with a request. "If I'm going to be here another night, I need to do something. Contribute." William raised an eyebrow. "Anna, I'm not asking for charity." He hesitated, then nodded. "There's a piano in the parlor. My late wife's. It hasn't been touched in a long time. You can dust there, if it helps." She offered a small, grateful smile and disappeared into the quiet room. It was a beautiful instrument, an antique upright with ivory keys dulled from time. As she wiped the surface with a clean cloth, her fingers paused over the keys. Then, softly, like a question, she pressed one. A single note echoed through the space. Pure. Simple. She pressed another, then another. The sound drifted down the hallway like something exhaled after years of being held inside. Emily appeared before Anna noticed. Tiny, barefoot and sleepy-eyed, holding a stuffed bear. Anna knelt slowly. "Want to try?" Emily nodded. Together they pressed a key. A low, warm chord filled the silence. Behind them, unseen, William stood in the doorway. He didn't speak, didn't interrupt, just listened. And for the first time since Clara's death, he didn't feel haunted by the sound. He felt still. Anna looked up, eyes catching the faint reflection of him in the polished wood. But she said nothing, and neither did he. The sound of laughter, real, full-bellied, uninhibited, echoed through the glass walls of the penthouse. It came from the living room, where Emily spun in slow, dizzying circles with Ava and Lily giggling in their baby bouncers, their chubby legs kicking at the air. Anna sat cross-legged on the floor, clapping softly, her face lit with a joy that belonged to a different lifetime, a time before heartbreak and hunger. From the hallway, William watched. He hadn't seen Emily laugh like that since Clara died. Not the polite kind of laugh children offer to adults, but a belly-deep, breathless kind, real and contagious. He took a step forward, then stopped himself. Something about the moment felt sacred, like walking into it might break whatever fragile thing was blooming. The kitchen smelled different now. There were spices again. Warm things simmering. Life. He'd found leftovers labeled in neat handwriting. Stew still good. "Don't toss!" Or, "Emily loves this. Save extra." He'd come home last night to the twins asleep in the living room, and Emily curled up next to Anna on the couch, listening to her hum stories instead of reading them. He said nothing then, just stepped past and into the shadows of his office. And yet, those shadows had started to shift. Still, something gnawed at him. He sat at his desk now. The blinds closed, screen open to old safety reports, construction logs, death summaries, legal disclaimers. Most of it blurred together into cold, impersonal language. But one name came up twice. Marcus Robinson. The date matched the day Anna had mentioned. William stared at the entry. The cause of death was buried under redacted pages and phrases like incident under review and liability assumed by subcontractor. But he knew that language too well, knew what it was meant to hide. He shut the laptop slowly, then reopened it and started again. Down the hallway, Anna was in the guest room, sorting through a small box of folded documents she'd tucked into the bottom of her diaper bag. She hadn't opened it in months. Not really. She lifted a folded eviction notice, then her marriage certificate. Her thumb brushed over Marcus's name. Beneath that, she found the letterhead she'd nearly forgotten. Carter Enterprises, a settlement offer. Not in her name, but addressed to the firm representing Marcus's union. She hadn't recognized it then, but now, the logo matched the one on the building William had casually mentioned the day before. Her breath caught. It couldn't be. She folded the paper back in thirds with hands that trembled, her mind spinning. She didn't move for several long seconds. Her babies stirred in the background, but she was somewhere else. Somewhere between the past and this impossibly warm present. When she emerged later that afternoon, the house felt heavier, like they were both holding something behind their eyes, but neither was ready to speak about it. At dinner, she made lentil soup and William offered to slice bread. Their hands brushed near the silverware drawer. They both stilled. Neither looked up. In another room, his phone buzzed. He excused himself and stepped into his office. A video call blinked to life. Half the Carter Enterprises board filled the screen, suits and muted ties. The skyline behind them glowing like ambition. "William," said one of them sharply, "we need your signature on the Asia-Pac inspection deal. The investors are circling. We can't afford another delay." "It's not ready," William said quietly. "You've had the files for 3 months. There are inconsistencies in the safety audits," he replied. "If we outsource to this firm, we lose oversight on 30% of our workforce." "That's not your problem," another executive cut in. "It's a legal shield. That's the point." His fingers tapped the edge of the desk. "It used to be about building things. Now it's about covering our backs." A pause. "You're getting sentimental," someone muttered. "Maybe," William said. "But I've learned sentiment is underrated." He ended the call. In the kitchen, Anna rocked Lily while Ava lay dozing beside a soft lullaby playing from her phone. She stared out the window, the lights of Manhattan flickering like stars behind snow-laced glass. William returned quietly, watching from a few feet away. She didn't notice him at first. She was humming again, soft, steady, familiar. "Anna," he said gently. She turned, eyes guarded. He hesitated. "Wanted to ask, needed to?" But the words stuck in his throat. "Thank you. For dinner," was all he said. She gave a small nod, then returned to the window. Later, after everyone had gone to bed, Anna stepped out onto the balcony wrapped in a blanket. The air bit at her skin, but she didn't flinch. The city felt quieter from up here, like the noise didn't dare climb this high. She looked down at the lights, then up at the stars. Ava and Lily were asleep behind her, safe, fed, warm. She whispered to the night, voice almost too soft to hear. "He's not like the others, is he?" The penthouse was quiet, save for the low hum of the heater and the occasional creak of the building settling under the weight of the winter storm outside. Snowflakes clung to the glass like secrets, thick and swirling. Anna stepped lightly through the hallway, her arms full of folded laundry. A single sheet of paper lay on the floor near the office door, fluttering slightly in the draft. She paused, bent to pick it up. Then she saw it. Her eyes landed on the letterhead, Carter Enterprises. It wasn't the name that stopped her breath. It was the address. The date and the site. Steel Ridge Construction, November 18th, 2 years ago. Her fingers clenched the page. Her mind filled in the rest. That was the site. Marcus's site. Heart pounding, she stepped closer into William's office. On the desk, more documents lay scattered. Safety waivers, inspection delays, contractor agreements with names she remembered only from legal paperwork she hadn't been allowed to keep. All of it linked, signed, sealed, buried. Her husband's death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a cost of doing business. Behind her, footsteps echoed. William entered the room, drying his hands with a towel, unaware of the storm waiting inside. Anna turned slowly, her face pale, her voice tight and shaking. "My husband," she said, holding up the paper. "Marcus Robinson. He died at this site. Your site." William stopped mid-step. His throat went dry. "Anna, he died building your empire." Her voice didn't rise, but the weight of it landed like stone. He took a slow breath. "That site was run by a subcontractor." "I didn't know. You didn't want to know," she snapped. "You signed the safety waivers that let them cut corners. You signed the settlement agreements that kept us quiet. You signed away his life like it was nothing more than a line item." His hands trembled. "I didn't know. I swear to you, Anna, I didn't know it was him. But it was," she said, eyes burning. "And now he's gone. And you're living in glass and steel while I raised our daughters in shelters and cheap motels." William's voice cracked. "I didn't know. You should have," she hissed. "You should have looked." The silence that followed was sharper than shouting. Anna's eyes filled, but the tears didn't fall. She turned away, walking toward the hallway. "We don't belong here. Anna, wait." She didn't stop. She walked to the guest room, gathered the twins, still bundled in sleep, and began to pack their things. William followed her to the doorway, helpless. "Don't go." "Not like this." She zipped the diaper bag. "What do you want me to do, William? Pretend it doesn't matter?" "Pretend this house, this comfort, erases what your signature did to my family." He stood in the doorway, shaking his head, grief blooming where guilt had lived. "I don't want you to pretend. I want you to know I didn't choose this. But I can choose what happens now." Anna's voice softened, but it didn't lose its edge. "What happens now is we leave. You go back to your silence, and I go back to surviving." "I don't want silence anymore," he said quietly. "Not if it costs the truth." She looked up, startled. "I'll make it right," he said. "Even if it ruins me." Anna stared at him. "Why?" "Because your husband died for something I built, and I've been standing in glass walls pretending I didn't hear them crack. I should have known. I should have known. And I can't change what happened, but I can choose what I do with it." She blinked, the tears falling now. "I'll go public," he said. "Full accountability, investigations, names, every waiver I signed, every deal I made. I'll put it out there." Anna didn't speak. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he said, voice raw. "But I am asking for the chance to face what I've done." She stepped past him, carrying the girls. He didn't stop her. She crossed the hall, disappeared into the shadows of the guest room. William stood there, alone. Then, slowly, he turned back toward his office. His hand hovered over the contract, the one that had been waiting for his signature. The billion-dollar inspection deal the board was pushing. Legal shields, liability shifts, silence. He lifted the paper, then tore it in half, again and again, until the pieces scattered like ash across the floor. From the hallway, Anna watched silently, one hand resting on the doorframe, the other cradling her daughters against her chest. She didn't speak. She didn't leave. Not yet. By morning, the torn contract was gone, but its absence rang louder than any announcement. William stood before his executive team in the Carter Enterprises boardroom, sharp in a dark suit, his tone steel flat. Behind him, the skyline loomed, indifferent and endless. "We're opening a full internal investigation," he said. "Effective immediately." Silence. One of the board members leaned forward, eyes cold. "You're talking about digging into deals that were signed off years ago. Protected by NDA, covered by legal." "Covered by greed," William said, "and negligence." "William, think carefully." "I have," he said, gaze unflinching. For the first time in a long time, they threatened, hinted at legal fallout, reminded him of shareholder value, personal liability, legacy. He let them talk, and then he walked out. That afternoon, Anna stepped into his office with a file folder and a notepad. "I started reviewing the site maps for the Steel Ridge project," she said without preamble. "There are inconsistencies between the approved plans and the actual build, especially in the foundational load-bearing calculations. Corners were cut." William looked up. "You're sure?" "I studied architecture, remember?" she said. "You don't forget how to read a blueprint." "Not when your husband died in one." He took the folder from her hands. Inside were copies of safety inspection reports annotated in red ink, her handwriting, precise and damning. "I cross-referenced them against city filings." At least 3 other sites show the same red flags. He exhaled, quiet and shaken. You've done more in one night than my internal audit team's done in a year? Anna shrugged. They weren't looking for the truth. I am. They spent the next week working in parallel. Long nights, phone calls to former foremen and city clerks, coffee-fueled strategy sessions that stretched until dawn. Anna dug deep into structural diagrams. William chased old contracts and shell companies. The truth unfurled like a poisoned root system beneath his empire, buried but alive. The board pushed back hard. Threats became legal memos. One morning, William's general counsel resigned. The next, his private emails were leaked to the press, selective, damaging, and clearly orchestrated. Then came the worst betrayal. His most trusted advisor, Daniel Reed, a friend since grad school, walked into his office without knocking. "You need to stop this," Daniel said. "I can't," William replied. Daniel threw a thick manila folder on the desk. "That's a lawsuit. Personal. They're coming for you. Everything. Assets, holdings, even custody if they can spin it." William's face tightened. Daniel's voice dropped. "You have a daughter, Will. This isn't just about you anymore." It never was. Daniel left without another word. That night, Anna sat on the balcony, the twins finally asleep, the city breathing below her. William joined her with 2 mugs of tea, his shoulders heavy with the day's weight. "I can't protect you from all of this," he said. "Not from the fallout," Anna shook her head. "I'm not asking you to." She looked out at the skyline, then down at her hands. "When Marcus died, I blamed the company, the subcontractor, the inspectors, everyone, but I blamed myself too." Her voice cracked. "For letting him take the job, for not telling him to walk away, for not seeing it coming." William turned toward her. "Anna, I kept thinking if I'd just fought harder, asked the right questions." She trailed off, eyes glassy. "You didn't fail him," William said quietly. "The system did." She looked at him, her breath catching. "I've seen what failure looks like," he continued. "It's ignoring a mother on the side of the road. It's turning away from a widow because the truth makes you uncomfortable. You're not the failure, Anna. You're the proof that we can still do better." The press conference was held 3 days later. Media swarmed the Carter Enterprises headquarters, cameras crowding the steps. Inside, the air was tight with tension. The board sat stone-faced behind William. Investors watched from the wings. Anna stood near the edge of the stage, her heart thudding in her chest. William stepped up to the podium. "I've come here today not to preserve my reputation, but to dismantle what has made it possible," he began. Flashbulbs burst. "For years, my company operated under the illusion of safety. But the truth is, negligence and greed cost lives, including that of Marcus Robinson, a construction worker who died due to a collapse that should never have happened." Gasps. "I signed those waivers. I profited from those deals. I looked away. The room fell to stunned silence. But I won't anymore." He turned toward Anna. "To honor Marcus, we're creating the Robinson Integrity Trust, a worker protection initiative to fund independent safety audits, legal advocacy, and site-level education across every project we touch. And I'm naming Anna Robinson as its co-director." Reporters erupted. Flashes flared. The board rose in outrage. Several members stormed off, but the crowd didn't move. The silence fractured, and then applause, slow, staggered, then swelling. Not everyone stood, but enough did. William stepped back from the mic, hands trembling. Anna met his eyes from across the room. He didn't smile, but his voice was steady when he said, just loud enough for her to hear, "You showed me what integrity looks like." The last of winter had slipped away without a sound. Now, sunlight filtered through pale green leaves as Anna stood barefoot on the porch of her new townhouse, the warmth of spring brushing against her skin like a promise kept. Birds chirped lazily from the fence posts. Somewhere in the yard, laughter rang out, high-pitched, unfiltered, alive. Ava and Lily darted between flower beds on unsteady legs, their curls bouncing as they chased soap bubbles floating into the breeze. Emily ran alongside them, her sneakers squeaking on the pavement, the kind of smile on her face that only came from feeling safe, loved. The yard buzzed with life, real, ordinary life. Inside, the scent of cinnamon rolls drifted from the kitchen, a radio hummed quietly, and soft toys cluttered the corners. The townhouse was modest, 2 stories, pale brick, but every inch of it had been chosen with care. Funded by the Robinson Integrity Trust, co-designed by Anna, every light switch, every corner, every ramp for strollers and accessibility. Shaped by hands that once held grief but now held purpose. She didn't just live here, she'd built something. A car pulled up to the curb, engine cutting quietly. William stepped out, dressed down in jeans and a navy button-down, a cardboard tray of coffee in one hand, a leather folder tucked under his arm. He paused for a moment at the gate, watching the girls play. Anna noticed him before he spoke. She didn't startle, didn't stiffen. Their eyes met with something unspoken between them. Not tension, not distance, understanding. She stepped down from the porch as he approached. "You're early," she said, smiling softly. "You're just always ahead," he replied, offering her the coffee. "Hazelnut. No sugar." She took it, their fingers brushing briefly. He lifted the folder. Preliminary drafts for the Baltimore site. Mixed-use housing, community center, green space on the roof. All from your notes. Anna raised an eyebrow. "You listened?" "More than you know." They stood in the yard for a few moments, watching the girls play. Lily tripped, laughing, and Emily helped her back to her feet without hesitation. It was seamless now, the way they moved together as if they'd always belonged in the same frame. William took a slow sip of coffee, eyes distant. "You ever think about how different things might have been?" "If I hadn't stopped that night?" Anna looked at him. "All the time." He nodded, quiet. "But I also think about what's become of it," she added. "About how something broken can still grow." There was a long pause, the kind where breath slows and the world seems to listen in. She looked at him fully now, her voice low but certain. "You didn't just save us, William." His gaze met hers, unwavering. "No, Anna, you saved me." Neither of them moved, but something between them settled, solid and unshakable. They spoke for a while longer, about upcoming audits, site visits, Anna's first speaking engagement next month. But eventually, William checked his watch. "I should go," he said. "Emily has piano in an hour and she'll insist on playing something awful the whole way there." Anna chuckled. "She's improving," he smiled. "So am I." He turned to leave, then paused at the gate, glancing back at her as if memorizing the moment. "Same time next week?" he asked. Anna nodded. "Bring better coffee." He laughed under his breath and walked to the car, the folder tucked back under his arm. As he drove off, Anna stood there for a moment, watching. The air shifted. A single snowflake fell, soft, out of season. Then another. She looked up, smiling. The kind of smile that knew this wasn't winter coming back, just a quiet reminder of where it had all begun. Behind her, Ava and Lily ran toward her with squeals and sticky fingers. She scooped them up effortlessly, one on each hip, and turned to carry them back to the porch. Emily trailed behind, holding a crayon drawing of the three of them holding hands beneath a sun. As Anna crossed the threshold, she caught her reflection in the glass of the door. For just a moment, the Carter Enterprises logo shimmered faintly behind her from a sticker still clinging to the mailbox from when it arrived. Then, the new emblem came into focus, clean, bold. "Honest integrity builds futures." She stepped inside, letting the screen door close behind her as laughter filled the house. Outside, the snow kept falling, soft, harmless, and full of light.